Alright, so I'm back, and today we're going to do our first discussion topic about Hot Rod. So I asked a question the other day of why people don't like the masterpiece Hot Rod. And there's quite a few topics I want to go from that question. And one of the I want to say the most common answer that I got, but I did get a few of them, was that it's Hot Rod, and people don't like Hot Rod. People always say, Hot Rod killed Optimus Prime, and such, and I'm holding back a sneeze. Okay. But they don't like Hot Rod, and that's why they don't like the figure, is because they don't like Hot Rod. So I want to talk about Hot Rod for a bit. I want to play a game of What If. And in this What If game, we're going to just kind of open discussion, so you guys can definitely able to chime in the comments below. But my topic is, what if Hot Rod was not in the G1 movie? Like, we've taken him completely out. And we're going to discuss the events of the movie without Hot Rod and how they might have played out if he was not a factor. Now, some people might say, "Oh, well, there's just that one key scene," but we'll get into that too. We're going to try and map out possible trajectories of the movie without Hot Rod. So the movie would open pretty much the same. Nothing would change there. Unicron would eat the planet. Optimus would send the shuttle to go get Energon from Autobot City on Earth, which we later find out was Metroplex. Megatron intercepts the shuttle, kills everybody on board, and his plan to attack to slip by the early warning systems and attack the Autobot City directly, like a surprise blitz attack. All right, so we've got a good start to a plan. We got a great plan by Megatron. Now, the first event that Hot Rod is involved in, you see him fishing with Daniel. Daniel wants to go see the shuttle land, and Hot Rod eventually says, "Okay, fine, let's do it." So he races through, goes through the barrier, and he goes up to the top of the mountain, and he notices that Daniel notices that there's a hole in the shuttle while Hot Rod's over there like. And then thus he realizes there's Decepticons on board and opens fire on the ship. Now, if Hot Rod wasn't there, nobody would have seen the hole in the shuttle, and thus the Decepticons would have continued on to their plan. Now, one could argue that, well, it was Daniel that pointed out that there was a hole in the shuttle, but if Hot Rod wasn't there, Daniel would have been left with a different Autobot. Most likely RC, possibly Cup. But either one of them are more responsible than Hot Rod. Cup, you see, is closing the road to the top of the mountain. For whatever reason, they were closing it off. None of the other Autobots that were at the base were irresponsible enough to drive through a barrier to go to the top of the mountain. So there we have that. Now, what would have happened if Megatron would have continued on to his plan? Of course, if you're planning a siege, you want as many troops as possible. And that's what they ended up doing, was sieging Autobot City. Now, for that, one would think that the Combaticons would be the best choice to bring to that battle. Now, the rumor is that they started making the G1 movie before the Combaticons made their first appearance in the show. So let's say the Combaticons just were not available to use. Although, one could argue like the toys were available most likely at by that point, or they were going to be available. So maybe they could have created them for the movie. Who knows? That's hard to say. But so the Combaticons just aren't an option. But so he brings the Constructicons. But now the question I have about the Constructicons is, why would you bring the Constructicons? He wasn't planning to siege the city. He had the Insecticons. If he wanted to siege the city, he would have utilized the Insecticons' cloning ability, which we've seen in season 1, I believe. Yeah. And season 2. So he could have attacked them with a swarm of Insecticons if he was planning to siege. To me, because they weren't, you see Starscream when he's getting shot at by Hot Rod, he's legitimately surprised by the attack from Hot Rod. So they weren't ready for combat yet, where they were. My theory is that Megatron's plan was to land the shuttle inside Autobot City and blitz it from the inside out, not from the outside in. An inside attack like that, with as many Decepticons as they have, and with the Autobots being scattered throughout the city and the surrounding areas, they would have massacred the Autobots. Everyone in the city would have been dead in minutes. It would have not been a fight. It would have been. It'd been like the Trojan horse. He didn't in Troy. They didn't have that many soldiers inside the horse either. It was just enough to go in there and kill the guards and open the city doors. But in this case, it would be all the Decepticon army essentially inside the city, fighting from inside out. So at this point, if he's doing that, why bring the Constructicons? Because Devastator wouldn't be that. I mean, yeah, he's a huge help, but he wouldn't be that much help from the inside. He's a helpful outside in a siege situation where they're opening the doors and stuff like that. But now they're on the inside. So, which brings me to my second theory of what would have happened had they landed. Because we've seen it happen in the past where he utilizes Robot Smasher or Robo Smasher to reprogram Autobots into Decepticons. So here he is in Autobot City, which is Metroplex, with the Constructicons, and and we see in the next season they already have plans for Trypticon. They already have them all planned out. So, in all likelihood, the Constructicons would have been reformatting or rebuilding Metroplex, or even if you sit there and say, oh, well, Metroplex wasn't really there, in the city, that became canon later. Well, then, if that's the case, then they're rebuilding Autobot City into either Decepticon City or Trypticon. So, because of the delay and the attack from the outside coming in, they're able to raise the alarm to Optimus, and Optimus would come back. But by the attack from the inside, everything would have been destroyed from the get-go. There would have been no communication. Autobot City would have been dead, and Optimus Prime would have had no idea what happened. And then they would have repaired the shuttle, filled it with Energon and all the Decepticons, now, battle hardened and such, and they would have gone back to the moon base and attacked them from the other side, and done the same tactic twice, and it would have worked twice. Because again, Optimus would have thought, oh, okay, everything's going according to plan. So that's the first event I would say would be the major difference if Hot Rod wasn't in the movie. I know this is a little extreme, so let's take it back a notch. Let's say everything still happens the way it is. They find out the Decepticons were in the shuttle. Decepticons siege the city. They raise the alarm. Optimus comes. Here comes Optimus. He does his badass, flying through all the Decepticons scene. They have the epic final battle, and this is one of my points here too. Is like, even if Rodimus or Hot Rod wouldn't have interfered with the fight in between Optimus and Megatron. So now we have. We'll jump to the end of the fight. Megatron's on his knees. He's defeated. Optimus has his gun, and he's ready He's pointing it out at Megatron, and Megatron starts begging for mercy. And Optimus is like, what does he say? You who are without mercy now plead for it. I thought you were made of sterner stuff. That right there is Optimus hesitating. Here is his greatest enemy. A man, or a Decepticon, who just killed a whole bunch of his friends and leveled a city. Yeah. And he's gloating over him. He hesitated. That's, even if Hot Rod hadn't gotten involved, that right there is, it would be Optimus's biggest downfall, is he hesitated. Now, he could have, I'll continue this in a minute. Alright, where was I? Oh yes, Optimus hesitating to kill Megatron. Now, there's no prior evidence to suggest that Optimus would have even killed Megatron to begin with. If you look at all Season 1 and all Season 2, Optimus had zero killer instinct. He never once illustrated the ability to kill, let alone actually do it. So I personally don't think he would have ever pulled the triggers on Megatron. I think maybe wounded him again and taken him prisoner. But in most of the G1 episodes, either he defeated Megatron and let him escape, or Megatron got the upper hand at the last second and got away. So that's probably what would have happened here. Same kind of scenario. Either taken him prisoner, or he would have gotten away. I honestly don't think G1 Optimus would have pulled the trigger. Now, Rodimus being involved, caused that another moment of hesitation, and everybody blames that scene on Optimus dying, and they blame Hot Rod for doing it because he was involved. My issue with this is, I'm trying to think of a way to put it that doesn't sound insensitive, but I don't know. I guess let's talk about like a shooting. Lots of people try and blame music for shooting, or they blame the gun for the shooting, and it's like, no, it's the person that did the shooting. It's Megatron's fault that Optimus died. Megatron's the one that shot Optimus. Hot Rod jumped into the situation, and no, Hot Rod did not help the situation, but he wasn't really the cause of the situation. Optimus was hesitating to shoot Megatron, which was allowing Megatron to get closer to the gun that he used to shoot Optimus. Because of that's why Hot Rod got involved. He was trying to stop Megatron from getting the upper hand by grabbing the gun and shooting at Optimus. So anyway, so Hot Rod. So let's say those events still play out like they do in the movie, and Optimus dies and he passes the Matrix on to Ultra Magnus. Now there's a couple theories on the Matrix, that the Matrix chooses who's the right person, or the first person who touched the Matrix after Optimus is the one that got the power. That's why it started glowing when Hot Rod grabbed it, and not when he handed it to Ultra Magnus. Let's go with that rumor. So Ultra Magnus gets the Matrix first. He has the power. He's got the touch. Okay. Let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, so the two shuttles have left Autobot City. They're wanting to go to Cybertron to try and stop Unicron. All right, so they get intercepted by Galvatron and company. Now, we all know Ultra Magnus' ship. They detonate back 3/4 of the ship and they land on the planet Junk. Okay, we'll go back to them later. Cup, the Dinobots crash land onto Quintessa. No Hot Rod, because we're taking him out of the movie. We're going to see what happens here. Cup is at the bottom of the river, getting attacked by a giant squid, completely helpless, and his parts are all over the place. He dies. End of Cup. He's gone. Goodbye, Cup. Dinobots are wandering around aimlessly, like they tend to do. Wheelie tries to get involved, tries to talk to him, but now he has no, like, hey, I know where your friends are. Come with me. We can, work together. He's got nothing to go on. He's just talking to him. Grimlock, knowing from season 1 and season 2, finds him highly annoying and kills him, or chases him off. One of the two. So now we don't have Wheelie, which, yay, no Wheelie. Dinobots wander around the Quintessa for a while. They discover that either they get attacked by them or they stumble onto them, but they discover the Sharkticons and the Alicons being ruled by the Quintessons. And same kind of event plays out where Grimlock starts killing a whole bunch of them, and then they all stop and they start worshiping him. He gets them to kill the Quintessons, and he takes over Quintessa, and he's now the king of the Sharkticons and the Alicons, and he's got his own army. But because there's no direction for him, that's where he stays. He's now no longer involved in the rest of the movie, because he's on Quintessa. He doesn't sit there and think, oh, I should get a shuttle and go find out what's going on elsewhere. It's more like, hey, this is my place. If the Decepticons now come over here, I'm gonna own them because I have a freaking army. Alright. So let's go over to Ultra Magnus and company. So they're trying to fix the shuttle, and then they get attacked by Galvatron, Cyclonus, the Sweeps, Decepticon army. They destroy the shuttle, like always. Leads to a little chase thing, and finally we get to where Ultra Magnus buries the rest of the Autobots inside of the cavern of junk, and he's standing there with the Matrix, and now he's the chosen one, and he decides to use the Matrix against Galvatron, Cyclonus, and the Sweeps. That was his darkest hour. that is Ultra Magnus leading the charge to doing the best that he can. And that was against Galvatron, Cyclonus, and the Sweeps. We know from a later episode that Return to Optimus Prime Part 2 that there's only so much juice that the Matrix has. So he just used the juice in the Matrix against a handful of Decepticons. So who's to say if it's going to have enough power to go up against Unicron later on? Who's to say? So let's play this story out a little bit longer. So he uses it against them. It destroys Galvatron, destroys the Sweeps, it destroys Cyclonus. They're gone. Unicron's over there at Cybertron, and he's sitting there like, well, fuck. There goes my Herald and his minions. And the Matrix is still out there. I can't go directly attack the Matrix because Matrix might destroy me. I need to get a new Herald. I need to get new troops. So he looks to Cybertron. And who's in charge of Cybertron at this point? Most of the Decepticons went with Galvatron. Starscream's dead. So he then reformats there's only a handful of Decepticons there. So he'll reformat them. Soundwave and Shockwave. They get to be as powerful as Unicron now. They're the new leaders of the Decepticon army. So now we've now you got Shockwave and Soundwave upgraded, and that would just that would be a very pretty picture. So because it was when Galvatron took the Matrix and went back to Cybertron and was telling Unicron that, hey, now you're my slave. That's what prompted Unicron to transform and start annihilating Cybertron. He had no reason to do that prior to this, so why would he there? Even if those events still played out, and let's say Magnus couldn't open the Matrix and he gets killed by the sweeps like he normally does, and Unicron or Galvatron takes the Matrix back to Unicron. Well, now the next problem is without Hot Rod's interference with the battle against the Junkions, they would have been fighting for a very long time. By the time they were done and got to Cybertron, if they ever did, Cybertron would have been gone. Unicron would have already destroyed it and moved on. It was Hot Rod's interference with the Junkions, and like even if Cup made it to this point, you know, Hot Rod says, "Hey, what's that universal greeting you told me about?" And Cup says, "These guys don't look friendly." So he wasn't about to try it at all. He Cup was like writing them off, like, "Oh, these guys are bad guys. We're just gonna have to fight them." So without befriending the Junkions, they would have never had the Junkion ship that they used to fly to Unicron. It was Hot Rod's idea to steal the ship from Quintessa so that there was not another ship. So now they have no ships to get to Cybertron. Ultra Magnus is still dead, by the way, because they didn't befriend the Junkions, and thus the Junkions wouldn't repair Ultra Magnus. So Ultra Magnus is dead. Now there is no chosen one to open the Matrix. And if we're going by the first person to touch the Matrix after the death of somebody else, or the previous chosen one, then Magnus was the chosen one. He's dead. Galvatron picked it up. Galvatron is now the chosen one, and he goes back to destroy Unicron. Maybe it only works for Autobots, so maybe it would exist inside of Unicron until somebody took it from Galvatron. Who knows? It's hard to say. Now we're going down too many different variable lines. The point of the matter that I'm trying to make is, like, without Hot Rod, the movie would have played out a lot differently, and completely against the favor of the Autobots. And the biggest point I want to make, though, is the fact that even though Hot Rod jumped into the fight, it was Optimus' hesitation at the beginning that caused that window for Hot Rod to get in there. That's what caused Megatron to get the upper hand and attack Optimus and beat him, essentially. So yeah. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you guys think would have happened if Hot Rod was not in the movie? Yeah, let me know.